Welcome to the Spurs News Podcast, your home for all things Tottenham Hotspur. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a Spurs News transfer update. It is Saturday the 27th of June, year of our Lord 2026 as I'm recording, and it is just me. Hello, it's Sam, Spurs News Sam, as I am on Instagram, by the way. I rejoined Instagram when we won the Europa League. I'd left all social media personally because it was doing my head in, but I rejoined because I wanted to see all the players' posts and everything, and I was sort of seeing some of them second hand, and I'm still there now, and it is Spurs News Sam, because that's basically all I'm going to be doing on there, is following football stuff. So if you're on Instagram and you want to say hello, that's where you can find me. Transfers in this window, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because not strangely, it would appear, and of course there isn't really the evidence to back this up yet, but it would appear that the owners are willing and are allowing those running the club, probably for the first time, to spend the amount that's needed to be competitive in the Premier League. And by competitive I mean back to the sort of top 6 level Champions League chasing and placing level of competitiveness which we had become accustomed. To get there or to maintain that, you do need to spend at a certain level, and that level went beyond what we were doing. To go from where we are right now to there is going to require an injection, and it would, like I said, all the rumours are they are willing to do that. Irony, of course, being this is possibly a little bit too late. I don't mean that in the sense of we're done, we're going to get relegated next season, there is no saving us as a football club. I mean it in the sense of when players are looking at a club to join, there are always going to be footballing factors, of course, and also non-footballing factors. Tottenham have the attraction of London. People want to be around London, that's fine. Tottenham have the financial ability and are showing it now to pay wages at a high level, to also to pay the transfer fees now apparently, and agent fees, which is hilarious when I think of the deals we missed out on because we refused. But the non-footballing factors and things, the footballing factors are really where we're getting our teeth caved in here, which is back-to-back 17th finishes in the Premier League does not suggest good things to a player. No European football at all, that doesn't help. We are not, and never have been really, a trophy-laden football club. So by that, looking at it from a player's point of view, okay, there's not a club with a history of continuously, regularly winning trophies. It's not a team that's currently in Europe, and in fact the last 2 seasons, although there are certain mitigating factors that 17th isn't good enough, I don't want to be bogged down in that again. One of the players we're being linked with is, apologies on pronunciation if I get this wrong, Matías Fernandez. He has just been relegated with West Ham. He will know, literally in a relegation battle with Spurs last season. I know, and I think we all know, that there are certain players that probably stuff like that, they kind of shrug off, whatever, this is my job, it's not my life. There are other players who will endure that. It is not a good experience. I've read some books and player accounts, and also in the modern world a lot of podcast interviews with former players where it is awful. You know, the way they describe situations. And I'm also aware, like at the Tottenham last season, there was a lot of tension. But you're not just looking at in the squad, you're looking at all of the staff and the people around the squad, because a lot of them would be losing their jobs, their livelihoods. Now, these aren't people earning thousands and thousands a week. These are people like me and thee. You know, they're earning a salary per year, and all of a sudden they're going to be looking for a new job. It is a mess, and West Ham are going through that, and players who have just been relegated with them will be acutely aware they don't want to feel that way again. So we're in this weird situation where we are trying to attract people to join us on a kind of hope value that we as a club are not going to be in this situation again, and also we are trying to do it financially, where we're basically being willing to overpay on a transfer fee, overpay on wages, overpay an agent fee, because there's an element of desperation. People will then make their minds up. It is difficult because, let's say you're Sandro Tonali at Newcastle United. He seems to have made the decision, I've been in Newcastle a few years, and I want to move on. I want to play somewhere else. He seems like the type of player who enjoys English football, so another club in England would be good. We do have the pull of London in our favour massively there, which is no disrespect to Newcastle, but the difference has always been a draw between the two, and we are offering him a far better salary package, a sign-in bonus which is significant. His agent will do very well out of the deal we're proposing. Obviously Newcastle have every right with their player to demand the fee they want, and are quite right in their stance of, if you don't hit that, we're not selling him, why would we? I do think with Newcastle there's probably an element as well of they don't want to get dragged into the similar situation they have with Isak, where the player in the end forced it through in the final moments of the transfer window. Yeah, they cashed in heavily and Isak did not have a good season at Liverpool, but I think that deal ended up not working for anyone. Newcastle didn't really have the time to find the right player to replace him, and the efforts they made didn't really work out for them. They also, the player himself just was clearly not in the right mindset, then got injured, and it didn't work for him, and it didn't work for Liverpool. I think they'd be keen to avoid that, but at the same time, when you're the selling club, you want to get the best price you possibly can. So at every turn for us trying to get Tonali, Newcastle have leaked it, which is, if you're trying to get other people to make offers, is the smart thing to do, because you're basically saying out there, it's like, look, they've offered us 80 odd million, we've said no, we're looking for a deal closer to 100 million, but talks are ongoing, and you're basically signalling to every other club who's registered an interest, which is Manchester City and Arsenal most notably, that we are willing to sell, but we've just not agreed a fee with this club yet. Now, what that typically means, if another side genuinely are interested, so I can't speak to Arsenal on it, but Manchester City seems to be a real genuine interest. They've wrapped up their deal for Elliot Anderson, and they always said they wanted Anderson and Tonali this summer. So it's kind of interesting. They've wrapped up one deal. If they are serious, what they would do is sit and wait for us to agree a fee and then match it. And then it's up to the player who he joins. From our point of view, that's not a good thing, And if Arsenal do the same thing, I mean, all the rumours are with the press of Arsenal right now in Newcastle is they're talking to him about Bruno, who for me would be a much better signing for them and does make sense. but it feels to me like Newcastle basically had the conversation, and again, this is purely me speculating now, but it feels like Arsenal went in for Bruno. Newcastle said not for sale, no chance, no matter what you offer. Tonali though, we're gonna sell Tonali, and Arsenal probably said, okay, well, keep us up to date on that. And again, you could have a position where we agree the fee, this is what it's going to be, Newcastle let the world know what that is, and then it's up to these other clubs, because Arsenal and Man City can both match it. The player's agent did very little to settle nerves by basically doing an interview in Italy this week where he said, obviously talks are ongoing, proud to wear the Newcastle shirt, is happy to stay, said all the right things, and then said, but my player is open to a move to North London. He didn't say Tottenham. But that could just be pure paranoia on my part, but pure paranoia probably based on 25 years old of experience of how this football club tends to operate. So anyway, let's I've got a list of things that people have messaged in asking our opinions on. It is just me, apologies for that for a start. It is incredibly hot in the UK right now. I have a sort of home podcasting room, if you like a kind of studio which is set up, and what I've done is I've done certain things in the room to soundproof it, because I do podcasts, not just Spurs news. This is kind of my secondary thing, so I'm a massive Tottenham fan, but I do have a sort of an entertainment podcast talking TV and movies, which does very well, but it means I use the space quite a lot for that. But the downside is when it's hot, which I know is only a few days, few weeks a year in England, it does seem to be getting more extreme though. It is really hot. So we recorded the last show we did in there, and I think the temperature hit 41 degrees at the start of me recording, and by the end it was like 43, and I was basically a puddle. So I didn't want to do that. Steph is very busy weekends with his family, so I waited for the temperature to drop off a little bit, and here I am, and I decided, you know what, we've had a lot of messages come in just asking opinions on things. Let me just do a very quick, my easiest way of me answering is do another quick transfer update. So here we are. So let me work my way through the stuff that's been sent in. The very first one was asking our reaction to the Daniel Levy pulling our pants down comment over the signing of Jan-Paul Van Hecke. I don't. One, I am not convinced Daniel Levy would have appreciated his text message being shared. You talk to your mates, you have these conversations, you're doing it from your own perspective, and that's a conversation you're having, not doing it outward. It's like Daniel Levy, if he had a Twitter account, would not have tweeted that, if you see what I mean. I don't think, anyway. I could be completely wrong, of course. But the comment, I don't think, because initially I saw a few people like, we have overpaid and stuff like that. And my reaction to that, and what I tried to say to people at the time, was we've been a bit brainwashed as a fan base, I think. And this is everyone, because I've gone through this very similar thing where I was looking at the Sandro Tonali deal, and the price is being quoted, and I'm saying, it's just not worth that. For 25 years or thereabouts, ENIC have owned us, and Daniel Levy has been driving that, and he has driven this sort of money-based thing to all of us that we as football fans have become suddenly conscious of. Ooh, that's a high wage. Do we want to do that? Ooh, that's a big transfer fee. Is he really worth that? And why should we care? I know it's a bizarre thing to say, but obviously none of us want the football club to go bankrupt, and that would be insane. But they're, if we were all that obsessed with balance sheets and finances, we'd all be fans of Google or Amazon, like chanting their names on the high road. This is about football, and we want to watch a football team that wins things, wins more games than they lose. Hell, just wins a few home games would be nice right now. So the idea that we've had our pants pulled down on a transfer fee for a player, the comment coming from Daniel Levy, from me personally, summed up beautifully why he was never able to transfer his very acute and very good business acumen to being a football chairman. Because there is a time in football, every coach we've ever had has bemoaned us doing transfer deals late. Daniel Levy would negotiate and negotiate and negotiate. Sir Alex Ferguson described dealing with Daniel Levy as like literally having his balls in a vice. He would do that and do that and do that, and we have 100% missed out on players due to the way he used to do things. Some real notable signings which would have really made a difference for us. He just would go in, get the player all agreed, and then just haggle with the club and drag it out and walk away and come back and lowball offer just to like try and squeeze the most financial value. And there are times we all look at that and go, been levied, well done, he's done well there. But when it came to us as a football club progressing, it was a massive hindrance. Getting a transfer done early, getting a player signed, getting him in so he's there for pre-season is massive. And what we have done in this window very, very well, with the free transfers I'm including in this, is getting a good chunk of business done as early as possible. Because the Van Hecke deal, have we overpaid for a player in his last year of his contract? I'd say yes, marginally. Have we had our pants pulled down? I'd say absolutely not. And two key factors. For one, every game this guy's played in the World Cup, his value's gone up, and other people have gone, shit, Tottenham have done well there. Like that guy is actually, he's very good, very, very good. Which anyone who watched him last season in Premier League should have known anyway. But the World Cup's kind of like that. It's a spotlight on these players. Secondly, you're spending, overpaying a little bit, but you've got to look at the footballing cost. Tottenham were nearly relegated last season because of years and years of the financial balance sheet being the priority over the football. The signings, the timing of signings, players coming in later windows, sometimes, they then had to get fit. All these different things add up to errors on our owner's part, Daniel Levy's part. And what that means is we are looking to address that now. And yeah, we've had to pay a little bit more to get the deal done and get it done quickly, but we've done that. That speaks volumes to me about, even if the larger deals which we're about to discuss don't happen, it is impressive that we've done the deals we have. You look at it, and that is Van Hecke, Marcos Senesi, obviously Andy Robertson, and now also signed is Martin Dubravka on free. So that's 3 free transfers at the end of their contracts, which have improved the squad. And obviously Van Hecke is a fantastic signing, done nice and early, and like I said, deal done. So the pants down comment, I think, just highlighted Daniel Levy's mentality and why that mentality left us the way it did. He has a legacy which will forever be mixed, in my opinion. Some very, very smart decisions, some very good structuring of things, and just some absolutely appalling footballing knowledge, if you like, of what is important from a footballing point of view to be successful. And perhaps he did know and he just didn't prioritize it. I'll never know the answer to that question, but him making that comment straight away showed he was always more concerned about the finances of a deal, and to him a victory would have been getting Van Hecke for 40 million at the end of the window when they wanted 52 at the start. That's him winning. From a footballing point of view, we saw time and time again that isn't a win, and it also leaves you open for deals to be hijacked. Speaking of deals being hijacked, Sandro Tonali, the transfer link. As I said a few minutes ago, Man City and Arsenal are very much interested. The player will have options. Newcastle are making it a big public saga, so everyone who might be interested are keeping their eye on it. Today, as I'm recording, the 27th, has been very quiet on this one. I think Tottenham decided to prioritise another deal because they kind of hit a bit of a stalemate with Newcastle. But it's still the case of we've kind of got an offer in. There was a weird report that we'd gone back in for a new offer but offered the exact same deal we did last time. Now there's nothing official out there, but the fact no journalists of note followed up on that, I would suggest it was absolute crap. It's one of the biggest problems with transfer windows is, unfortunately, there are so many websites now which are basically money earners for people. So they are looking for clickbait. It is a big thing, and you know, I saw one the other day, and I'm not going to name any of these people, but I saw one the other day which said Tottenham steal sensational Arsenal forward. People are going to click that because they're like, what? Tottenham are doing what? It's a kid from the academy. This is literally like a young academy player who, by the way, started at West Ham, then moved to Arsenal, and now is looking likely to move to Tottenham. Across the academies, that is so common for academies, for players to change academies. It is so common that it's not it's not noteworthy. It's really not. It happens a lot, especially in London. You know, you got so many clubs in London, and you got so many good academies in London because of that, because of the Premier League and Championship level football clubs. Players are interchanging them like on a regular basis, and it's just a nonsense. And it was a total clickbait header, and I bet they got thousands and thousands based on that, clicking on it. And it's all income, ad generation. And unfortunately in transfer windows, these sites have got quite big. Like, there's a lot of them which, like, you recognise the name of it. They're not journalists. They are literally bloggers, podcasters, people like myself who are just making stuff up a lot of the time based on what they're reading. Like 1 + 1 equals 57 with them. You know, okay, I've just seen David Ornstein said Tottenham's linked to Tonali. They will then run a week of exclusives of saying nothing more than what's already out there, but they're constantly writing headlines on it of like new movement in Tottenham Tonali deal, and Tottenham fans of course click on it straight away. Oh yeah, what's the new movement? And the biggest thing is when you throw enough shit at a wall, something's bound to stick. And some of these accounts will just keep talking nonsense, and occasionally they might luckily stumble across something that ends up true. And you'll find this because they'll all pin whatever that tweet was to the top of their account, like it's some sort of holding up, like, look at this. But they're also constantly putting stuff out, so the 99% of absolute made up bullshit is always being replaced by new bullshit. But that pin tweet, that pin post at the top, look, we said this on this date and then it happened. So you've got to rely on us, we're reliable. And people who look to the articles, of course, will just click their profile to say, oh, who's written this? Oh, wow, okay, they obviously know what they're talking about. Look at the pin tweet, look at this. I'll take this on board. And then the next thing you know, It's snowballed. It's got a life of itself. So with Tonali, the facts, as I understand it from reputable sources, as of today, the 27th of June, at 12:20 p.m. as I record this, is we've made 2 offers. They've both been rejected. So you've got roughly a deal equating to 80 million and a deal equating to 85 million have been rejected. Newcastle have said they want a deal heading up towards 100 million, or they won't entertain it. I think there's a deal to be done there. I personally think this is down to Newcastle trying to secure a replacement. This is just my personal opinion, but keep an eye on Newcastle transfer news. There's a midfielder they really wanted before they signed Tonali. He plays for Borussia Dortmund in Germany, so keep an eye out for that. If you see Newcastle making a move for that guy, I think it's a signal they feel a deal to sell Tonali is close. So keep an eye on that. But beyond that, it appears to be just all quiet on that one. My personal fear is that once we agree the fee, Man City and or Arsenal match it, and then the player has a choice. Tottenham with all the prospective baggage we've had, or Man City, Arsenal, Champions League football, more chance of silverware. It's a problem we've got because of how we've run the club for so long. This brings me on to the Fernandes thing. Man United have been in the driving seat for this deal from the start. They identified him as a key player they wanted to sign. The minute West Ham went down, Man United basically picked up the phone and said, we want this guy, how much? They got quoted the price, 85 million. Man United couldn't do that. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. There's this big thing about Man United at the moment, and their fans really don't like hearing this. So someone's going to probably clip this and I'm going to end up getting inundated. But basically they have a weird cash flow issue. Weird as in the sense of their previous... They did a lot of transfer deals which weren't great. And they agreed them over, like all clubs do, over a set period of time, and you then have to pay X amount. The Man United revenues for a little while dropped quite significantly, and what that means is their transfer payments going out was really eating into the budget they had for new transfers. The new rules have helped them a little bit, like the slight adjustment. So I imagine it's a timings thing, it's not like Man United are broke. So a lot of people are sort of pointing to that, and that's not the case. I think it's a timing thing, and we've tried to jump in to win the race based on that, which is a kind of a weird thing. So I think Man United can do the deal, but possibly needed to wait to a certain date so they could put the deal into a different financial year bracket. I think the player was happy to wait, happy to join Man United once they could do what West Ham wanted. I think we tried to jump in, hoping we could agree a fee with West Ham, do a deal, and West Ham don't really care who they sell him to. They won't care if it sells to us if we pay the money. They got relegated. They need to focus on getting promoted again, and 85 million will go well towards that. It's also interesting that West Ham are interested in a couple of our players. So I do think from that point of view, West Ham and us can do that deal. But then it's down to the player. He, by all accounts and everything that's been said, wants to join Man United. Can you turn a player's head when they're that committed to something? I think financially you can. Call me a bit mercenary, but I think you can. I remember years ago when Tottenham were failing to sign people, and it was always they wanted Champions League football, or we lost a player and it was like, this player really wanted Champions League football. And then I watched Chelsea have these really weird years where they didn't have Champions League football and yet still signed the best players in the world. And I'm like, but why? How come with us it was like, I can't join Tottenham, they don't have Champions League football, and then someone pointed to the extra zero on the paycheck to the agent and the extra zero on the weekly pay to the players signing for Chelsea in that season. And I'm like, oh, how stupid of me. It was never about champion. It was money. Yeah, it was money. So I do think you can, players like, I want to join Man United, I want to join. Wait, so you will double my wages? Yeah, Man United, you stay quiet. You will double my wages. So that seems to be the plan that Tottenham had. Jump in quickly in this window that Man United were struggling to meet the demands. Agree a fee with West Ham and say to the player, look, you like living in London, you don't have to move. We will pay you more than what Man United are offering you. Your agent's going to do very well out of the deal. We're going to do this, this huge signing bonus because, we really want you to, we really want you. And this is our vision. That seems to be the plan. It seems to be what we've done. And now it's kind of Man United have suddenly gone shit and have probably done some adjustments, some calculations that have now come back in heavily as well. So as of again 12:30, the 27th of June as I'm recording this, it would appear that Man United have now matched our offering, and the player, it looks like it's going to be a case of the player has a choice, and I think we all know that he's going to be going to Man United. I'd like to think Tonali and Fernandes get done, because it would send a massive signal to the existing squad, to the whole league and the European football, world football, that Tottenham are under new management and we're taking it seriously, and we are actually going to flex our financial muscle now. We're no longer going to worry about our balance sheet. We're actually going to go for football and success. Unfortunately, I think we've done this at the wrong time. We should have done this from a position of strength. We should have been, whilst we were in the Champions League on a regular basis, whilst we were being competitive, should have gone, right, now's the time to push on. The fact we're doing it now after nearly being relegated smacks a little bit of, oh shit, desperate, we lost 300 odd million being relegated, so let's spend that to try and make sure we never have that again. Will we spend that again next summer? No, absolutely not. We just got to do it this year. That's where the problem comes in, is people are a bit like, 25 years of doing nonsense. Do we really think this is a permanent change? I don't know. None of us do. Last season, when the owners rebranded themselves the Lewis family and declared they were doing stuff different, I saw no evidence of that over the course of the season. My fear is with Tonali and Fernandes is we've aimed a little high. I'm a Tottenham fan. All the rest fakir, like I am to dares to do, like, you should aim high. Because if you aim high and you fail, even failure has that echo of glory and all that stuff. I get it, but my fear is, like, we're trying to shop in Waitrose when really we're probably little, which sounds mad because we have the money to go to Waitrose, but I just don't. I think we're wearing scruffy gear. I don't think they're letting us in. My analogy is shit here. I'm sorry. We're trying to buy from the top tier, the top table. We're trying to act like Tottenham are still Champions League challenging for trophies, but we're not that right now. How do we get back to that? We make good, solid signings and rebuild, and we consistently push that. Van Hecke and the free transfers we've done, absolutely, all of those are top signings and are deals that are going to help us push on this season. My fear is Tonali and Fernandes as players with options possibly won't choose us, and that will have a very negative impact on us for this window, because we have so publicly gone for them with big money offers. Both players pick other clubs. Forget the banter aspect, because we're going to get that, but if both players pick other clubs, and then every player we're then linked to knows they weren't first choice. Like the two players, my understanding is from what I've read, and so this is pure speculation on my part. Please let that be known. But from what I'm read is like Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace and Alex Scott at Bournemouth are the two players that we would then move for should Tonali Fernandes fall through. Tonali Fernandes are absolutely the choices of De Zerbi, who they wanted. Wharton and Scott are two players the club have monitored and scouted for some time and as a club wanted to go for. We have tried to back the manager to the highest level of his choices, but if they fall through, and of course by doing this and waiting, the Wharton transfer for example, now Elliot Anderson has left Nottingham Forest and Man City for a deal somewhere between 115 and 130 million all in. If you're Crystal Palace, you're just going to smile at Tottenham. Hey, how much for... Oh, you want that much? Okay. Because why wouldn't you? You know, to a lot of people, me included, Wharton's a better player. And you've got to pay the English homegrown tax, if you like. It's going to be a damn sight more than Tonali or Fernandes to sign him. Now, ironically, I don't think Scott would be. Scott is a Tottenham fan, which is a massive bonus in trying to sign him. So you could possibly get Wharton and Scott for the same money as Tonali and Fernandes, just weighted much heavier in the Wharton deal. But those two players, how are they? They know they're second choices. You don't want to be someone's second choice, do you? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that, but that seems to be where that is. The Savinho thing I've been asked about. Very, very quiet on that. I think we made an offer. They said no. Talks were kind of good, but we've got a figure, they've got a figure, and there's no movement to find a middle ground. I did read a very accomplished Spurs in the know, Paul O'Keefe, who tends to only put things out there when he's had it confirmed by people, that there is a feeling of we've not walked away, but kind of just slowed the Savinho talks to like, okay, let's consider our position. Because if Man City want to rival us for Tonali, do we want to help their cash flow right now? And I know City are a vastly wealthy club, but with, like I said about Man United, the cash flow thing is kind of king with transfers with these rules. Of course, Man City are big believers in following the rules. But yeah, I think there could be an element of trying to prioritise, like, okay, we know the price for Savinho, we know the player wants to join us, we know Man City want to sell. Okay, let's kind of just slow the talks down there, and we'll come back because there's other things we want to focus on. That's my feeling. Someone asked about Somerville at West Ham. Again, there's some reporting that we asked in the talks with regards to Fernandes. I wouldn't be surprised if the Fernandes deal starts to look like it's not going to happen. We don't pivot to Somerville very quickly, as like a face-saving exercise of like, all the press talking about Fernandes. We didn't really want Fernandes. It's Somerville. That's the guy. I don't see us signing Savinho and Somerville, by the way. I think it's one or the other that we would target. How much, I don't know. But yeah, again, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. It's a very, very Dutch flavour to the team if we sign Somerville. The next thing I was asked to comment on is Vicario's exit. What our plans are to keep it. So we have signed Dubravka. Kinski has been promoted to our number one. Again, this is purely from reading between the lines of reporting, is we were interested in signing a new number one keeper, and we were interested in signing Trafford from Man City. The idea being young enough, it's going to cost money, but that's your number one for 10 years. English homegrown, absolutely a great investment. but the player was and I'll think about it after the World Cup, and the club just not willing to take the risk of waiting for him to decide to stay or him to decide to join somebody else. So they looked at it and made the call. Apparently Robert De Zerbi was the person who made the call. He was happy for Kinski to become the number one. The club's position was, we think signing a homegrown, like the opportunity to sign a keeper that hits that box and is at a certain level is very rare. So that was their position. But De Zerbi felt that Kinski's mentality, his ability, warranted him being his number one. So that's the decision they've gone with. Dubravka, I understand, was always a target, so whether Kinski was going to be moved to number one or possibly could have even been let go. If we'd signed Trafford, we would have gone for Dubravka as well. But again, that's possibly just speculation, so might not be any truth to that. But the reality is, Kinski is our number one keeper. He's been offered a new contract, and by everything I've read has signed it, so it's a 5-year plus an option. Should be announced, possibly even already announced while I'm recording this, because it was done yesterday, I'm told. Dubravka is joined, and of course we still got Brandon Austin as our third choice, club trained homegrown keeper. I think he has a job for life as long as he maintains his fitness and his ability there. Vicario, some turbulent stuff with him and fans last season didn't help. Some stuff got said which then unfortunately can't be unsaid. He is a good keeper. I've always liked Vicario. His family are wonderful. He's a good person as well as a good player. He was so invested in the club staying up, like he lived it, breathed it, even though he knew he was leaving. He was so supportive of Kinski when he was back fit again, and De Zerbi said, no, Kinski's not letting me down, he's keeping the spot. He could have easily become a sulky bastard and didn't. He backed him to the hilt, worked with him, supported him from the sidelines. So I'm sad to see him go. I think he got a real rough go of it from people during a very difficult transitional time for us. But at the same time, I think his reputation is higher back in Italy now, and I think if he joins an Italian side, he'll be their number one keeper, and I think can generally push on. I like Vicario, so I'm sad he's leaving, but he is leaving. I think his agent has fucked him a little bit. He basically had a deal for Inter, and then Juventus asked, and I think his agent kind of stalled on Inter with like, oh, let's just see what Juventus have got to say, and Inter just went, nope, moving on then. Like, you are signing for us because you want to sign for us, or we move, and they've moved and changed, and then Juventus called their interest, and I think it's Napoli now looking most likely, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, Vicario looks set to leave. The next one is the Vuskovic saga. Very young player who feels... Look, there's two sides to this, which I think is really key. The player feels he was sold on something that isn't the reality. When he signed for Spurs, he wasn't 18. You can't therefore move. So the deal was done to be completed on his 18th birthday. However, we arranged with his club, because obviously we were signing him when he was 18, that he would go out on loan to try and experience football, first team football at a higher level than the club he was playing for, that we signed him from. And so he went on a loan initially to the Polish league, then and then to another league, and then when he was 18 he was able to join us. I think it was the Belgian league. Polish league, then the Belgian league. Then when he did sign for us, he went out on loan to Germany, to the Bundesliga, and did brilliantly. That was last season. The plan always was, and was disclosed to him by the club up front, is after the Germany loan you'll come back and we'll see where you are, but the plan then would be a loan in the Championship, or if you've done really, really well, maybe a lower Premier League team, but again, loan So you get it through, and then you're going to come into our defensive setup to challenge Romero and eventually replace him as the right-sided centre-back at Tottenham. The players signed up to that, happy with that, ready to go. Now, from his point of view, he's done 3 loans, and we're basically saying to him, yeah, we don't think you're ready, and we don't think you're ready so much so that even though it looks like Romero wants to leave the club now, we're signing a replacement for him rather than putting you in. He feels therefore he's been a bit lied to, a bit kind of like, well, hang on a minute, I thought I was your man. I've just done brilliantly in Germany, like lots of top clubs want to sign me and play me now. And that's when Brighton came in. Brighton sensed an opportunity, I think, to once again sign a very, very good young player. And Brighton, so the last offer that we rejected was, again, this is slight based on reading between the lines, but 55 million plus a sell-on percentage. That's a lot for a young defender who's had one good season in the Bundesliga. But Brighton, who are undoubtedly one of the best talent spotters, one of the best there is at bringing players through, are willing to pay that because they know in 2 years' time, if he does well enough in the Premier League, which they obviously think he will, they can sell that player for 100 million. Chelsea will buy from them for 100 odd million because that's their model, and it's a model that's working brilliantly for them. From our point of view, we need to decide what club we are, and this is there's another player that this equates to, which I'll do next. We need to decide if we are the club that signs a player, develops him, and then pushes on with him, develops players, or if we're the club that wants to win now, only buys win now, and are willing to drop 100 million on a player that we could have signed a few years earlier for 20. And the reason why we need to make that decision is because right now I feel like we're at a crossroads. Players like Gray, Berval, Vuskovic, they are all ready to be playing Premier League football regularly. First team players for the right clubs, all 3 of them. Yet they're not for us. We are looking actively at signing players in their positions. So what does that mean? Does that mean we need to let them go? Even though anyone with a football in mind looks at them and goes that they're going to be really good. Like, they are going to be players in demand. The Vuskovic thing, I think the player has burnt his bridges with Tottenham now, and I think therefore he is going to leave. I think Brighton will sign him. I think what Tottenham do with that deal will probably be just looked at, look, we're making a shitload. There is a sell-on clause with the club we bought him from, so whatever Brighton agree with us, a big chunk of that's going to that club, so good luck to them, they deserve it. So yeah, I think he leaves now. I'm personally disappointed, but at the same time I'm trying to be objective and look at all sides to this, and I can understand his position. He has also got a group of people around him telling him he's going to be the best in Europe, and although people might look at Tottenham to Brighton as sideways, as a Tottenham fan you might even look at it and going backwards. From his point of view, he knows what Brighton are, and Brighton know what they are. You sign for Tottenham, we're saying to you, we are the destination. You are coming here, you are at a big club. That's what we've tried to present, and we've presented that to him, and then we've not really backed that up. Brighton are like, you sign for us, mate, in a couple of years' time, we'll sell you to a big team. And we're happy to do that. This is us. We see it as a transactional relationship. You come and do well for us for a couple of years, because you got to do well. Because if you sign for us for this fee and then you're shite, we lose out, you lose out, it's over. But if you join us and you do bloody well for us, and therefore we do well off of that, Yeah, of course, when Man United, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich come in for you, we'll sell you with a smile on our faces because we'll make bloody good money. So when you have that transparency with Brighton, you can understand why he's like, yeah, take me there. They want me. They want me to play today. And ironically, they want me to replace the guy you've just signed ahead of me. Yeah, so there you go. So I think he does leave. How and when, I don't know. I think we've basically told him to get stuffed. And also, I do know, and this is something firsthand, someone from the club spoke to Vuskovic, agent, to basically say, shut up, focus on the World Cup. We'll talk when the World Cup's over. But you running your mouth every single day is not helping your cause here. Your player is signed to us till 2030. If you don't shut up, he spends next season playing for our under-21s. We don't care what money we lose. Now, I'm sure it was worded slightly differently to that, but the fact that the club took that stance, I respect. What then happens, of course, after the World Cup is I think the player leaves, but the fact that he was told to shut up and to stop, because Vuskovic is just going around liking every single post from Brighton fan pages about him. He's liking every time Romano says Brighton are in for him. You're acting you're acting like a child. Of course, he's 18, 19 years old. He is a child. Lucas Berval is incredibly depressing for me, and it's basically almost an identical story. Lucas Berval signed fantastic young talent, was a development kind of plan with him, where he was going to be played. He sees himself as an 8. I know this is kind of a weird box to box player. He feels like he doesn't get game time doing that to develop. The club suggested maybe he goes out on loan. He feels that that's not what he was told when he signed. He picked us over Barcelona because he felt his first team opportunities, the style of play would be better for him. Of course, he signed for Ange. Then we went to Thomas Frank. There is a brilliant press article last week from a really well researched piece, basically talking about how Berval was treated by the club during that time, because the club basically backed their manager, which to a fault, which unfortunately means that Thomas Frank's treatment of the players was echoed by coaches and others, and he just left him. For all the Daniel Levy hate, and there's a lot of justifiable things, the one thing that Daniel Levy ensured is that his door was always open. So if a player like Lucas Berval that the club had signed was feeling like the manager's really mistreating me, they could walk into Daniel Levy and explain their point of view. Daniel would listen. He obviously wouldn't always agree, and he would ultimately back his manager, of course, but sometimes he would listen and see a problem. I'm still of the opinion that Daniel Levy is an idiot. He was the one who hired Thomas Frank in footballing matters. But I also stand by the fact that Daniel Levy would have fired him a lot sooner than we did. This hasn't worked, off you go. Now, stuff like that would have been dealt with. Now, Lucas Berval basically was getting silent treatment. He was ignored. He was basically being played ad hoc here, there and everywhere. He'd suffered several knocks, but then when he was fit, he was again just overlooked. Injury crisis going round, and people were being played out of position rather than him. So his confidence went, and once his confidence went, so there's a lot to it. But again, unfortunately, this looks like a player who is going to leave us. You only got to look at the fact that the minute the press articles hit, you look at the clubs he's linked to realise how talented this young lad is and how he's viewed. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be going this summer. I think this is one of those things where if you sign Tonali and Fernandes and Lucas Berval leaves, no one's going to give a shit. I think if you fail to sign Tonali and Fernandes and Bergval leaves, you've got problems. That's my view on that. And the last but not least is QT Romero. I have possibly said this before. and so I apologise, but QT Romero doesn't have a management team. He has an agent, but the agent doesn't say shit. And QT Romero doesn't talk to the press except for one journalist. So if you ever read a story about QT Romero that hasn't come from a journalist who works for ESPN Argentina, South America, it isn't coming from him. And it probably isn't true, or it's just opinion. So when stories about him definitely leaving, definitely joining Man United, open to that, definitely doing this, definitely doing that, are all going on, especially at the World Cup where he's so laser focused on Argentina, it's rubbish. Now the reality is, I think he wants to go play and live in Spain. His wife gave a very funny interview where she was doing some social media thing for the Argentinian national team. Basically said she loves living in London, loves life, but doesn't like the weather. So for his next move, she'd much prefer to go somewhere nicer weather. That interview and her saying that came out 2 days after the Manchester United rumour, which kind of made me chuckle, as I was like, is she basically saying, yeah, that ain't happening? You know, QT might want to go play for Man United. I don't want to live in Manchester. I want to go somewhere nice. He actually said a couple of years ago, which pissed a lot of people off at the time, he's like, oh, I've played in Italy, you know, I've now played in England, I'd like to play in Spain. Like, and I think that's a fair thing. Atletico Madrid really want him. Last year we basically said, yeah, it's like £60 million. They got nowhere near that. I think their best offer to us was like 40, and we were just like, no. Romero then signed a new deal with us, so the odds of us this summer asking for less are pretty low, unless, and this is a key thing, QT asks to leave. Not like a transfer request, because then he'd lose money, but asks like, hey, I'd like to go to play in Spain. You know, you've signed, you know, you got enough, you don't really need me. The interesting thing from my point of view would be if QT doesn't actually have interest in leaving. Like, family, kids are all settled in London, I like it here, the last time I checked I was the club captain, hey, we're signing people, fucking great news, let's kick on then. And then all of a sudden we got an interesting conundrum, because we've signed Van Herke. Does Danso leave? Do we just go into the season with 6 central defenders? Seems like a big use of the squad numbers. So yeah, just interesting to me what we do there. My personal opinion is Romero will be playing in Spain next season. Who for, I don't know. Maybe we take less money to make sure he goes to Spain rather than an English club. I don't know. It's an interesting one, but that's just my feeling. I think it would be really interesting though if the World Cup ends and he's like, right, come on then Tottenham, what are we doing? And everyone's like, oh, you're here. Like, yeah, I am, let's kick on. That'd fascinate me. But what we do then, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So that is it. That is the transfer special update. I have been Sam, talking to myself this entire time. I hope I've answered all the questions that have been sent in. I hope that by the time this actually gets out to everyone, everything I've said hasn't been rendered null and void by news that's come out, which would be sod's law. But if you want us to keep doing, either me doing this or hopefully getting people on the transfer stuff through the summer, then let us know. If you don't want to hear it, then don't say anything, because you're not listening. That's fine. That's all good. But anyway, I hope you're all having a good summer. I hope you've not melted if you're in the UK. It's been very hot. I hope you're one of those people that really enjoys the sun. I'm not. So, but hopefully you are. I hope you're enjoying the summer. And hopefully Tottenham surprise us all and land these transfer deals thereafter. Regardless, we'll all still be here next season. So you all take care, and as always, come on you Spurs.
Thank you for listening to the Spurs News Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Stay up to date with all things Tottenham. Follow us on social media. All links are in the podcast description.